development and financing of micro, small enterprises in the country. MSME sector has emerged a strong pillar of Indian economy. MSME sector contributes to economic growth, entrepreneurship development, financial inclusion, and employment creation. There are 30 million MSMEs in India and employs about 70 million people. You can imagine the kind of size of the MSME in India. It contributes to almost 45% of manufacturing output and 40% of exports and maintains a higher growth rate of 11% even during crisis period. With this brief background, I would like to invite on the stage the prominent speakers for this morning session, which is on how entrepreneurs can improve their access to finance by maintaining sound creditworthiness and repairing impaired credit records and examination of credit legislation and credit bureau practices. Our prominent speakers today morning are Dr. Khalid Nagati, Mr. Byron Jacobs, and we have two panelists with us, Ms. Happy Naninala and Mr. Makhani Makuba. I'd like to call speakers Dr. Khalid Nagati to the stage. Dr. Nagati. Dr. Khalid. Mr. Byron Jacobs. And we have the panelists with us, Ms. Happy Ranirala. I request her to come to the stage. Another panelist, Mr. Thakani Makuba. Before we start the session, I would like to give the background, brief biodata background of Dr. Khalid, who is the first speaker. Dr. Khalid is the CEO and Managing Director of Metropolitan Group, comprising 4 companies, namely Metropolitan Consulting, Egypt, Metropolitan Academy, Metropolitan Consulting and Training, South Africa, and Metropolitan Capital, USA. Dr. Khalid manages these companies in 3 countries, from the main head office in Smart Village, Egypt. He started his journey by traveling to the United States in 1993 for the purpose of studying business administration in California. He returned to Egypt in 2007 after gaining 14 years of professional experience. Dr. Khalid holds bachelor's degree in business administration from California University, USA, also holds MBA and PhD in credit and finance from Michigan University, USA. I would like to invite Dr. Khalid to make his presentation. Thank you.
Here. How to use this? Slides this way. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Khaled Nagati. I'm the chairman of the Egyptian SMEs Association and the CEO and managing director of Metropolitan Consulting, which is the credit and consulting firm headquartered in Egypt and with offices in South Africa and the USA. This is obviously our corporate building and our team in Egypt. Our presentation today is about SMEs and finance, access to finance, of course. We have talked a lot about access to finance. I'm sure you have been attending so many conferences about access to finance, but I have been doing this for a long time in different countries. So I will tell you exactly how banks and why banks don't like to finance entrepreneurs and SMEs, and what would you do to have banks fall in love with your business and start financing your projects. The topic today is about how entrepreneurs can improve their access to finance by maintaining sound creditworthiness and some of consumer rights according to the NCA in South Africa. Basically, that's our index today. The major problem for SMEs is which comes first, project or finance? That's a major question between banks and SMEs regarding financing and access to finance. Which comes first? Do we have to have a project first, that complete project to get financed, or the SMEs should have the finance first to start their business? How to choose the right project to be financed? Access to finance, available financing tools, creditworthiness, and National Credit Act and consumers' rights. First slide will start with which comes first, which is the major obstacle. And here in this slide, I will be showing you how banks look at entrepreneurs and SMEs, and how SMEs look at banks when it comes to finance. Financial institutions will always have these opinions about SMEs and entrepreneurs and why they cannot grant them any finance. They will come and say project does not have any active financial statements. Project cannot prove a positive cash flow. Obviously, it's a new project and bank doesn't want to take risk. Entrepreneurs does not have any proven experience in managing similar projects. Project feasibility studies are not realistic and not prepared, not qualified by a certified auditor or consultant. Entrepreneur does not have a positive creditworthiness to be qualified for funding at this stage, which is an early stage for the project to be financed. Project does not have the structure nor the qualified management team to run the business properly. These are basically the main obstacles that banks always object, and why they cannot perform any credit facilities for entrepreneurs and SMEs. On the other hand, that's what entrepreneurs will say. Entrepreneurs will always believe that they must get the funding in order to start their project. Financial institutions treat entrepreneurs same way as corporates, and they don't differentiate between, when it comes to credit requirements, they don't differentiate between SMEs, entrepreneurs from one side, and corporate clients from the other side, which happens in a lot of countries, including Egypt. Financial institutions take so long to approve credit facilities for entrepreneurs and SMEs, which they cannot afford. Internal policies for financial institutions varies from one to another, which confuses entrepreneurs and SMEs. In Egypt, for example, you would have, there's no definition for SMEs, so basically it's up to each internal policy for the financial institution to decide if this project will be considered as SME or will be considered as a mid-cap or a corporate level. So basically, SMEs in Egypt, what we do in Metropolitan, we prepare the file for the client, we do all the market analysis and credit analysis, investigation, and so on. Then we submit it to so many financial institutions. What happened is, in many cases, in so many cases, and most of the cases, SMEs would be recognized in one financial institution as SME, and the next door bank, it will be recognized as a corporate level. So that confuses really SMEs about internal policies of banks and what kind of requirements and so on. And in many countries, the SMEs will have, the SMEs departments in each bank will have different policy and different requirements from the corporate department. So this confuses SMEs as well. Each financial institutions run their own SMEs definition, which is still confusing for SMEs, and that's the case in Egypt so far. So the solution is, in Egypt, we have been dealing with this problem over the last many years. We have made so many conferences about access to finance for SMEs and so on. However, the main problem is that banks do not want to finance SMEs and entrepreneurs. Banks in Egypt, and I believe in many countries, are not designed to finance SMEs. So we have to know how can we attract our business. We have to be realistic, how to make our business look very attractive for financial institutions in order to get financed. We can't just, as SMEs, we can't just have, I'm sure we all have great ideas and positive projects in our minds and so on. But we can't just expect financial institutions just to, if I go to the bank today, I'll get the finance tomorrow, and Monday I'll start making money. We have to be realistic, and I'll be showing you here after this slide, what can we do to make our project and new project, and is it with a greenfield or expansion or whatever it is, look tempting to financial institutions to be financed. So the solutions we're coming up with in Egypt to solve this problem, because banks do not wish to finance entrepreneurs and SMEs, is forming National MSMEs Authority. And that's one of my initiatives that I have already talked to the past government and the current government. We're working on this very well with them, and hopefully this will emerge very soon. What we have in Egypt, we have different ministries. Each ministry, like Ministry of Investment, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of, so many ministries in Egypt, Ministry of Finance, all of them have departments and units for SMEs. However, each one of them deal with SMEs from their own inclination, and there's no unity of the government when it comes to dealing with SMEs. However, we have the SFD, or Social Funds for Development, which is doing a very good job in financing on the micro level, up to probably, like, it's easy to get finance from SFD in Egypt for up to 500,000 Egyptian pounds. However, when you're looking for 2, 3, 4, 5 millions to expand your business or whatever, there's no way you can get this amount from SFD. So basically, what SMEs do in Egypt, they go to banks and they start hassling and dealing with banks, and they get the runaround. Basically, takes them forever. Then the project is refused at the end of the day for different reasons. So what we're proposing in Egypt is forming a National MSMEs Authority. This authority will be investigating the obstacles facing MSMEs and finding solutions for them. One of the major roles of this authority will be to put and to assign an SMEs definition in Egypt. A lot of countries, including India, USA, and so many countries, they have SMEs definition, whether by how many employees work on the company, whether by the total revenue, net profit, and so on. So basically, the SMEs National Authority in Egypt, the proposed one of the major roles will have to put and assign SMEs definition for all banks and all financial institutions to be abiding by. MSMEs Management Training Course. One of the major problems for in Egypt and many developing countries for MSMEs finance is lack of management. The entrepreneur would have a very good idea, a brilliant idea actually, and would really work very well. However, they don't have the management skills. Either they have been working for other companies most of their life. They never managed a business before, or they just graduated from college and they want to start their own business. So basically, when they turn into banks and financial institutions, they get declined because of lack of management. So what are we proposing in the Egyptian in the Egyptian National SMEs Authority is for the authority to have a training arm. It could be a private or governmental institutions, where this training arm will provide what's so-called SMEs management certificate, by which SMEs, before they apply to any facility from any financial institution, they will have to go through this certificate. It's not only attending hours, it's attending hours and also passing the test at the end of the certificate. In this case, you would have SMEs would have in their hand a certificate that they have attended and passed the exam, that they are aware of how to manage SMEs projects. When they take it to the bank to apply for the credit facility, this will reduce the risk of having mismanagement from the bank's point of view. They also have to find a new scale and new methodology for financing SMEs, because most of financial institutions in Egypt, they follow they treat the SMEs the same exact way they treat corporate levels. And they cannot be right, because SMEs, they have different criteria. They should have different scale of evaluation and so on when it comes to finance. We cannot evaluate 10 years old company that's making 50 million a year. You cannot compare a small company, just an entrepreneur or SME just starting their business as a startup, and we asking for the same requirements as the mid-cap or the corporate company. Special funding sources, we're also asking them to be responsible for collecting special funding sources from either the government or international funding organizations with very low rates, especially designed for funding SMEs. And this will take the burden of financial institutions and banks in Egypt to finance SMEs. The last one is monitoring fund utilization. The problem is with SMEs in Egypt, I don't know about South Africa, but I know in Egypt and many countries, SMEs, once they get finance, if they get 2 million, for example, in Egypt, the first thing they will do is to buy a house and a car, secure their personal life, probably get married too as well. But they don't look for the business, and they actually misuse the utilization of the fund. They take the fund and they secure their personal life, got a house, got a car, they're okay. Whatever left in the business from the facility, they put it at the project, which of course will not be enough, and that's a misutilization of the fund. And one of the proposed roles of the authorization in Egypt is to manage the utilization of fund to make sure it is used properly according to the agreed upon contract with them. So I believe that in order to get financed, you have to have proper training and proper qualification. You can't just have an idea and go to a bank and tell them, hey, I have a good idea, please finance me. Banks are not designed to this. I'm sorry if I have to say that, but we have to be realistic. And now the solution is, what can we do to make our project really tempting to financial institutions to be financed? So my thought is, successful project is not the one that starts with finance. Rather, successful project is the one that ends with finance. Financing should be the last cycle of the project right before starting the business. You have to have the proper structure, the proper training, the proper qualifications, the proper management skills, then you look for finance. Most of SMEs, what they do in Egypt and many developing countries, they first go look for the finance before having all these structures. So what happened? They get the client and then they come and say, banks are not helping SMEs. It's not the problem of the bank. It's actually we have to have, as SMEs, we have to have the proper structure to present it to banks to be approved. Now, how to choose the right project to be financed? Most of the SMEs, they look next door. They see this guy next door, he has a very good project, he's making a lot of money, I'll do the same. But that's not right. Don't look for what you are qualified for, what you really love to do. And do not imitate your neighbors or next door guy just because he's making money out of his project. He could be qualified for this project, but you're not qualified for this. Start from where they ended. Basically, if you see the project that you might be qualified for, look around and search around, go surf on the internet, go to financial consultants and ask him, check similar experiences and start from where they ended. Visit financial consultant. Get help to prepare a market study about your project. Ask the financial consultant to prepare realistic feasibility study. In Egypt, it's very easy to go to any financial consultant, give them a couple of thousand Egyptian pounds. They will give you the best feasibility study in the world, and you take it to the bank. But actually, it is not realistic. You're not being honest with yourself. Even if you get the finance, you'll end up in trouble because you don't know how to run this kind of business. Help the financial consultant to prepare 3 to 5 years cash flow projections for your project. Ask him how you're going to be getting the, inform him how you're going to be getting the client and how you're going to pay back the financed amount. Promote your idea between family members and friends. Again, banks are not designed in all cases to finance SMEs and entrepreneurs. So we all have to start promoting our idea. If you can't convince your family member and your friends with your project, then there's no way you're going to convince a financial institution to finance you. So first, try to talk to your friends and family members. See if you can convince them first. And then go look for the banks. Access to finance. How can you secure finance? How long I still have for my presentation? 5 minutes. Okay, we have to wrap it up. How can you secure finance? You have to have a complete project structure before you apply for any credit facility from any bank. You have to have a good credit score. You cannot just have a lousy credit report and have defaults on your credit and have negative lists and go apply for a loan. No bank, of course, will accept to give you any credit finance. You have to have some savings. Banks will never, even if you do number 1 and number 2 and you go to the bank to apply for the loan, even the bank is interested and approved your structure, they will never finance 100%. They always like to see the SMEs or the entrepreneur putting some money out of his pocket. So you can't just go to the bank and say, you know what, hey, I need 500,000 rands. Okay, how much the project will cost? 500,000 rands. It doesn't work this way. We have to have some savings as well. Available financing tools in the market. When SMEs would like to get financed, they always think of banks. No banking system in the whole world can support financing all SMEs and entrepreneurs in the country. There are a lot of available financing tools, not only banking. But banking will present these kind of facilities for the SMEs. Overdraft, cash credit, bill discounting, which is factoring, term loan, letter of credit, and bank guarantee. These are the most common facilities you can get from a bank. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go through each one of them. Then leasing. We have direct lease and sell and lease back. Direct lease is briefly when you need to buy equipment for your factory, for example. You go to a leasing company, you put 20% down payment and they pay 80%, they import the equipment for you. The ownership will remain under the leasing company's name, and you will be paying monthly lease or monthly installments till you finish paying the whole lease. Then you claim ownership of the assets. Sell and lease back, which is when you own an asset yourself and you want to get cash out of it. So basically, you will go to any leasing company and you sell the assets to the company. They take ownership. They pay you the proposed amount, the agreed upon amount after the evaluation, of course, and they rent it back to you. They lease it back to you. So you keep paying lease or rental or monthly basis. Once you pay it off, you claim back the ownership of your asset again. And leasing actually will have a lot of tax advantages for SMEs and entrepreneurs. Private equity. You have angel investors, you have venture capital, and equity funds. These are three types of private equity that you can use for SMEs and entrepreneurs as well. Now, creditworthiness, how my credit score is calculated. It's very important for SMEs and individuals and entrepreneurs to understand how the credit score is calculated. In most countries, that's how it is done, more or less. 35% of your credit weight will be based on your payment history. 30% will be based on the amount that you owe. 15% will be based on the length of your credit history, how long you've been using credit. Of course, the older is the better, assuming that you keep a good track of your records. 10% depends on new credits, how many new facilities you're getting. That means you're still bankable so far. 10% types of credit used. What kind of credit you're using. This basically how the credit scoring is calculated in most of the countries, whether Egypt, I think South Africa, or the US. Now, the last slide here is National Credit Act in South Africa and consumers' rights. These are some of individuals and consumers' rights under the National Credit Act in South Africa. The right to apply for credit, You have the right to protect your information. You have the right of protection against discrimination in respect of credit when you apply. There's no discrimination. Shouldn't be any discrimination, religious, color, whatever it is. The right to reasons for credit being refused. The bank has to inform you why have you been refused. You have to understand what is the problem with your credit report, why you have been refused to work on it. The right to receive documentation relating to the credit agreement. When you are approved, you have to have an agreement. You have to sign an agreement with financial institutions and get documents explaining to you what the deal is all about. The right to receive documents in plain and understandable language for everyone. The right to receive documentation in certain languages if you are a foreigner and you live in the country but you don't speak, you're not acquainted to understand or sign agreements in one language. So you have the right, according to the NCA, to get the contract prepared in a different language that you can understand. The right to confidentiality. The right to be informed that the credit provider intends to report negative information on you to a credit bureau before the credit provider usually reports it. You have the right to know and be informed by the credit bureau that negative list will be put in your credit report if you don't do so and so. You have the right to receive a copy of your credit record from the credit bureau when you request it. You can get only one free copy per year from your credit report. Otherwise, you have the right to apply to get a copy of your credit report from any of the credit bureaus. To challenge the information kept in the credit bureau if you are unhappy with the information. If you think this information is inaccurate or misleading or doesn't even belong to you in some cases, you have the right to challenge this information and have it cleared of your name and have it deleted so you could be bankable again. The last one is you have the right for your information to be kept confidential and for your information to be used only for the purpose allowed by the Act. So when you apply for a credit facility for any bank or financial institution, they don't have the right to sell your name to anyone else except with your own consent. I think that's it. Thank you very much.